I'm just not a math person. I don't want to get personal here.
Yeah, it's a stupid decision.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. They're just bragging, they're just lying.
It's mind-blowing.
There's a lot of self-studying.
Especially
I'm gonna
here?
be honest. Yeah, especially here.
I hear a lot of things that are not complementary at all. Hello, Alex.
Hi, Sava. Nice.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming here, first of all.
Thank you for the invitation. My pleasure.
Amazing. Please, first introduce yourself for the people who may not know you, although it would be a minority on our campus.
Yeah, sure, it is possible because there are so many students on campus now. But I'm Alexandrina. Most people call me Alex, as I mentioned. I guess I am most well known for being a computer scientist and a mathematician, although of course I don't do math, well, math at least I don't do professionally. Computer science, I've been in the industry for a couple of years now, and ever since I arrived at AUBG, I've been involved in almost any possible activity related to computer science and math. A maybe little known fact is that I did music before. Even in high school, I studied music, and then somewhere around my junior year of high school, I transitioned into software engineering. So I had this like experience in completely different areas. But now I'm mostly doing computer science as a job professionally, and then music as a hobby.
How has that mix between music and computer science been going for you? I think it's pretty like two opposite sides of the spectrum, right? Energy, vibes, and more cool-headed programming.
Yeah, exactly. First thing is there is actually a lot of math in music, for example, even though it's not, you're not seeing integrals in music, but music is not that completely random thing that you do however you feel it. It actually has very strict rules that are based on more fundamental mathematical principles, especially if you get into music composition. It's kind of like writing in English. You don't just write anything that comes to mind, especially if you're doing it professionally. There are some rules that you need to follow with, and it's nearly the same with music. But then the other thing is, for the differences, I think they're complementary. And it actually feels great when I have this more nerdy activity that I really enjoy, but then when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed, I can do music, which is much more expressive. So I think they balance out very well.
I just want to make a disclaimer in the beginning of the podcast that I know nothing about programming, I know nothing about music, so please don't treat me too badly. I'll ask some maybe stupid questions, but maybe for the sake of clarity, just clarify it for me, please, all right?
Of course, it's completely fine.
Thank you very much. So when you started dealing with computer science, first of all, I want to clarify that you are computer science and INF major?
Yes,
Information systems. As well as your third year here in AUBG. So please tell me how it's going with the computer science. Why have you started? How it's been going? This part of your life, please.
Of course. My computer science story actually begins much before I arrived at AUBG. As I mentioned, it was actually the summer between, I think, my junior and senior year of high school, or sophomore and junior. I was just playing around with different activities. I think it's essential for everyone to just experiment and feel free to do it, because many people feel like they need to definitely find their niche at a very early age. Now, don't get me wrong, if you find your niche at a very early age, that's fantastic. But not everyone is able to do so.
That was not the case with you, right?
Yeah, it wasn't the case with me. As I mentioned, I've been doing music for quite a long time. It seemed like this is what I was going to do, but then I completely switched to another area. And I think, I think people shouldn't be afraid to do so if they feel like they need change. And they shouldn't feel afraid to experiment. I've tried almost anything. I've even tried a lot of sports and so on. But I think programming was the one area that really grabbed my attention. So what I did over the summer
How old were you back then when you decided that?
I was, I think, 15. Yeah, I was 15. And I remember I took an entry programming course at Software University, which we call SoftUni in Bulgaria, or SoftUni in complete Bulgarian. And I really loved it, so I decided to keep pursuing the degree. So their degrees are not bachelor degrees as the one that AUBG offers. They offer something we call a professional degree in Bulgaria, which would most likely translate to like an associate degree in America.
Is it like a certificate?
Not really, because it's a full curriculum that you go through, but it's within the span of 2 years.
I see.
Maybe it's something like community college in the US. I guess, something similar. It doesn't have a precise equivalent, but it's somewhat similar. So it gives you a lot of practical experience, but not a bachelor degree, which in my case wasn't too big of a problem. I actually really, really enjoyed their program because it was so practical. And I remember I got my first developer job after my first year there. So while I was still there, I was a TA, a teaching assistant. And then once I graduated, a couple of months later, I got a job as a lecturer there. So my history is still strongly related to software university. It hasn't finished. But yeah, that's how I got started. It just started as an experiment. In fact, I remember that when I was younger, I never really saw myself as a programmer. It seemed kind of lame, because I think there's this stereotype that it's a super boring job. And it did seem boring to me initially. Well, not initially, before I tested it. But when I was picking my extracurriculars for the summer, I thought, let's not be narrow-minded. Let me just give it a go. And I actually fell in love with it.
Why? What grabs you there?
I think that freedom that I have within software engineering, while still having some logical framework, is what really, really grabbed my attention. It just feels awesome to have structure and freedom at the same time.
I want to ask quickly about AUBG, about the courses you took here, as well as the whole major program of COS and INF. Many people say it is probably the stupidest decision you can take is take exactly these two majors here. Please tell me more about it. How do you feel it so far?
Yeah, it's a stupid decision.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Well, not for everyone. I don't like generalizing. I wouldn't say I regret combining these two majors. I'll explain why in a bit. In general, most of the time, I wouldn't advise students to take particularly computer science and information systems. My advice would be to take one of these majors and then some other major that is related to a different field. Now, in my case, I guess one of the reasons was that what people had told me is that computer science is a more theoretical field, information systems is more practical, so I should combine them because they complement each other well. That hasn't been my experience. I think both have a theoretical and a practical component. There is a huge overlap. And I think the second reason why I decided to have this combination of majors is because I didn't see any other field that I was really as passionate about as I was about computer science and therefore information systems, because they're very similar. And I also had jobs which consumed a huge amount of my time. And so if I were to choose another major, it would probably have been math, but math at AUBG is extremely demanding. And it requires you to put in a large amount of time, which I didn't really have.
Why is that so? Because of the teachers, or because of the course of the structure of the courses, or the courses themselves, maybe?
Yeah, I think math inherently is extremely complicated.
Sure.
Like if you ever meet someone telling you that math is easy, they're just bragging, they're just lying. Math is not easy at all. And then our professors are really demanding, definitely. But I actually like this, especially when it's within the major. Now, whether they should be that demanding in gen ed courses is a bit more debatable. I have a different opinion on that. But within the major, I agree that they should be demanding, because if you decide to move on and pursue a master's degree in math or even computer science, they will require you to have a lot of prerequisite knowledge in math. And professors would actually do a disservice to us if they, ease out the courses and we're just sitting there just having fun. But at least I think they're very supportive. That's what my impressions are from the math professors. I actually very often joke that I was born for the computer science department, but adopted by the math department, because I interact with their professors so often. And they're just so open-minded and supportive, and they're really, really awesome. So I think even if you're not particularly passionate about math, or even if you don't have as much experience, if you put in enough effort and if you communicate enough with the professors, they will help you succeed.
People just think, I'm just not a math person. That's a common stereotype. What do you think about this? Are there math people and not math people?
I don't think so. I think there are people who might naturally have a more math-oriented mindset and way of thinking, and then as a result, they might get math more quickly or more easily. But I think most of the time it's about hard work. The reason why it's more complicated in university is because the way math courses are structured, even in high school, is they build on top of each other. So if, let's say, you fell behind in math in like the 8th grade, and then you were behind the whole time until you graduated and you come to university, then catching up is a lot harder.
Yeah.
But it's still not you being dumb or not being a math person.
Yeah.
It's just that you lack the prerequisites. I remember I've met a lot of amazing mathematicians here at AUBG that were just like mind-blowing. And I was just like, these people are so smart. These people must be math people. I'm not a math person. But then after a couple of conversations, I realized that they studied like calculus 1, 2, and 3 in their high school, so they now don't know the material. So I guess one piece of advice I would give to anyone for any class is, if you see amazing people in the class, keep in mind that this is most likely the result of prior experience and most likely intellect, high intellect, but not just high intellect. We have like a large variety of backgrounds here at AUBG, and I feel like comparisons wouldn't really be helpful in any way.
AUBG is boasting about its business department, its JMC, maybe political science, maybe I would say that the 3 top majors in AUBG, in marketing-wise, right? But COS and INF, I wouldn't say that about those majors. What do you say about the professors of those 2 departments? Because I hear a lot of things that are not complementary at all. I don't want to get personal here. Just give me, please, an overview of what you've experienced so far.
I think the faculty in computer science is not the best. I think firstly, our curriculum is very old. It's not relevant to what the industry requires.
In which regards?
For example, we learned technologies that were very popular some 20 years ago, and like no one uses nowadays. Like you would hardly ever see a company using that technology. And then we spend like a full semester on the technology, or like half a semester, but then you realize it has no point because you're never going to use it. And then when it comes to professors themselves, I've actually seen a positive change this semester, mostly because we invited a lot of international professors with great experience.
Professor Hutchinson, I heard, right?
I am not taking any courses with him, but I have a very positive impression of him.
Yeah.
He is very active. He's leading a lot of initiatives. I think he teaches very well, based on what I'm hearing from my friends. So the situation is improving, but based on what I've seen until now, our courses are very theoretical. Unnecessarily theoretical, because computer science is a very practical field. And yeah, I guess that's the main problem.
Sure.
They're very theoretical. I think professors themselves have been out of the industry for a long time, which is kind of a natural process. When you get into academia, you don't really get as much experience from the industry. But I think having some way of keeping up with the latest trends is super essential. And this is what I think is missing in the computer science department. I can give a positive example, though. Professor Rao, who is currently our chair of department, I think he's extremely good at teaching. I think he is extremely competent in the material. And I also follow him on like LinkedIn and other social media. And this man gets a new certification like every week or so. He's so
even
amazing.
faster than you.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I just look at his posts and I'm like, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
He's chair of the department. He's extremely busy. He's obviously extremely well prepared for his classes because I think he's the best computer science professor I've had. And he's very active on social media. He's super supportive to students. We communicate with him all of the time. He participates in different events. And then on top of that, he somehow finds the time to constantly keep upskilling himself. And I think this is very, very important for every professor. It's just that I see it more often in professors from other majors that are trying to keep up with the trends and be educated. And in the computer science department, it's more rare.
As far as I know, some of the computer science professors, especially in the introductory courses to computer science major as a whole, they make you write code by hand, on paper. Once I first heard about it, I couldn't believe it, to be honest. 2025, I mean, AI, whatever, we are catching rockets with chopsticks, basically, right? And we write as if it's 1965. You remember this picture with the girl, like this tall pile of code written by hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Please tell me your opinion about it, because as far as I know, it's not that straightforward.
Definitely. I'm generally against having exams on paper. I also think it's ridiculous, as you mentioned. I was also mind blown the first time I heard that at AUBG there's exams on paper. Professors typically point out as an argument the benefits of you writing by hand because this would help you memorize. But here's the thing. Computer science is not about memorization. Computer science is about thinking, right? About algorithmic thinking, mainly, and creativity, as I mentioned. So when you're confined to writing down on paper, what you're preparing for while studying for the exam is just being a memorization machine. Like, what was this method code? What was this variable or like property code? But the thing is, as a person from the industry, I can definitely say this, that in the industry, no one cares if you memorize the methods. Because guess what? They're one Google away.
Yeah.
Right? So you definitely don't need these. And I think the focus is shifted towards something that's less meaningful. Now, I do get that the situation is complicated because of ChatGPT and all of the other AI agents. And I think that's one of the other arguments of course professors. They're just like, well, we could do exams on computers, but there's no way to restrict you from cheating. If I have to be completely honest, I don't know if that can go in the podcast, but that's the reality I've seen. People cheat when they're doing paper exams too. Especially when the professor gives you the exam a few minutes before the class. He goes to, the rows behind. People get their phone, take a few pictures, then they use their Apple Watch or whatever to cheat. So cheating is actually unavoidable unless you're like really, really strict about it. So if you cannot restrict cheating, then please allow the students who are actually putting in the effort to do something meaningful and to build actually meaningful skills instead of being memorization.
Yeah, I'm gonna be even more honest here. I know some people who cheated on their senior projects using AI. Yeah, it's mind-blowing. You have a working experience, right, in this sphere, and it's not like a few months, as far as I know.
Yeah, I think it's about 5 years
exactly,
now.
right? Yeah. And you, maybe more than any other students here, know what people out there want you to know and to have a skill set of in the job market. So maybe it's not memorization, as you mentioned, but what other requirements, what are the people in the labor market looking for specialists?
Yep. I think nowadays what they expect from you, specifically in terms of technical skills, is deep knowledge in one specific technology or programming language or framework is what we call them, rather than you having worked a little bit with different technologies. Because the thing about computer science is the programming language itself doesn't matter much. What matters is that you have deep understanding of the concepts themselves. So concepts don't really change in different languages. So if you apply for a job and you're like, oh, I've written code in Python and Java and JavaScript and what else? C and C# and C++, this is not really a huge benefit because anyone could switch to another language within a short amount of time. But if you're really specialized in one or maybe one or two technologies and you went really deep into them, this shows that you have the type of understanding that most other candidates are lacking. And then beyond the hard skills, in terms of soft skills, I think it's becoming increasingly important for you to have the skill of communication, which is like, the stereotype about computer scientists. But I feel like programmers are becoming more open, more communicative, or at least that's important and that's looked for. And it's important for you to take initiatives. It's required more and more. So, well, it obviously depends on your job and your position. In my case, I've naturally grown from a developer to some sort of manager or leader, or product developer and so on. So I have always been required to take the initiative and think a lot about the bigger picture rather than my code and my code only.
I see. What do you specialize in terms of computer science?
So until now, I've been specializing in web development, more specifically web development with React and Nest.js and Express. Sometimes I am open to exploring different fields, though. As I previously said, even if you specialize in something, you shouldn't be afraid to try out different things. So next semester, I will actually be taking deep learning, which is related to AI. So I give that a go. I think there is a huge misconception when it comes to being an AI programmer, because there are these random free courses or like €5 courses on Udemy and other platforms about AI that supposedly teach you how to write AI, but all they actually teach you is how to use pre-made libraries in order to set up something. Now, if you want to be a professional within the field, this is not gonna cut it at all. You need to have a very deep understanding of math in the first place. Probably, calculus 1 to 3, linear algebra, statistics as well. And then you need to have a good mastery of Python and some other programming technologies. So actually, being an AI programmer is not easy at all. And if you guys see a free online course about becoming an AI programmer within a month, not possible. It takes years.
First of all, how do you feel about vibe coding? And explain to our non-programmer people, and to me as well, about
Yeah.
what vibe coding is.
Sure. So the concept of vibe coding goes like this. You create programs without writing code or without really understanding code. So you just stay there, you prompt the AI, and the AI writes the code for you. Now, I don't really enjoy speculating about the future.
Sure.
So, you never know. There's a lot of these specialists that tell you that it's going to take our jobs or it's not going to take our
Tech
jobs.
gurus.
Yeah,
sort of,
right, exactly. But the truth is, you can't really know for sure. However, what I can comment on is the current state of AI, and I think it's not ready at all. It's not there yet. I actually use AI in my daily job, but I use it very wisely, and I'm very careful about the code it writes. I don't trust it for important conceptual work. I only use it for the so-called lower order thinking tasks. The mechanical tasks. It's good at them most of the time, although you should still double check. But vibe coding, I don't think you can do high quality software through vibe coding.
So many people from our university and around the globe, computer science people who graduate from computer science diploma, they struggle to find work, and you know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you, first of all, recommend? What's your position on the whole labor market of computer science? And what's your stance on that in general?
Yeah, we certainly seen a decrease in the demand for computer scientists. But what I tell my students, because as I said, I teach at software university now, my students are also worried about it. And I remember back when I started teaching, they would come to the university and they would know almost for sure that if they go through the entire curriculum, they would find a job decently easily. And now it's not like that anymore. But what I tell them is, if you are really passionate about it and if you really put in the hard work, you'll still find a job. There's still a lot of demand. It's just not as much as it was before. So I guess that's my overall opinion. And then the advice I give to my students is actually related to something I mentioned previously, and it's take initiative. Don't wait for opportunities to randomly show up. This becomes increasingly harder, but you take the initiative.
What are the ways to find such initiatives?
Exactly. So an interesting fact about me is I've probably worked about, 5 to 10 jobs until now. And I didn't ever apply for a job through the standard process, through sending CV and a motivational letter and then interviews and so on. So the first job, the first developer job that I ever got, I cold emailed the CEO of the company. I really loved what they were doing. It was an educational company. I really believed in their cause, which is one of the driving factors for me when I'm choosing jobs. I cannot randomly take any job. I'm not going to work for a casino or a betting website or something that I don't believe in.
Do you think that is important in people when choosing jobs, especially in computer science?
Yeah, it should be. I think it should matter to anyone.
Why?
To everyone.
Why?
Because I think your values as a human being should be reflected in everything you do in life. I don't think your work profile is fully detached from you. I don't know. I would personally be very bothered if I was working for, a betting company or something. I don't believe in that. I think it's wrong. I think the same way as with advertisements, right? There's a lot of Bulgarian actors that advertise such companies. I don't. It would really deeply bother me because I'm promoting something I'm against. So I think insisting on your values when you're choosing work and then when you're working is really important, even if it has a cost. Sometimes it will have a cost. Sometimes standing up for a colleague that's been discriminated might lead you to be fired. I don't know. That's a really extreme situation, but it might happen. Honestly, I would prefer that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to even sleep. I don't know. I think my life principles are still guiding me even at my job.
So going back to what we were saying about the company, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I emailed them, and at first they didn't reject me, but they just told me they're not looking for a software engineer. And because at the time I wasn't in a rush for finding a job, I just waited. I just continued schooling and so on. But I think a few weeks or months later, they reached back to me. And they were like, we have a free position for software engineering. Would you like to apply? I went through like a, I don't know, 3-hour interview.
How old were you back then?
I was 16.
Wow.
Yes, I was 16.
Wow.
It was a year after I started studying at software university. By the way, a really interesting methodology they had for interviews was they didn't even tell me it was going to be an interview beforehand. So the CEO texted me and he was like, do you have 5 minutes for a call? So he called and then he was like, actually, do you think you have a little bit more time? I said yes. And then we had a 2 or 3 hour interview, which was a very interesting approach. But then I learned why. They did it because they wanted to get your natural reactions and natural responses.
Spontaneity, yeah.
Exactly. And not pre-learned answers to questions. Try finding the initiatives that you find important, you are passionate about. Try reaching out to the people, and it might be a great way to connect.
This year, you became the #1 talent of Bulgarian computer science sphere. Is that correct?
I have a bit of a problem with the word talent. You know, it's extremely hard to define. I don't think you can really rank talents. So I have a problem with the word itself, but I feel very grateful for the awards exactly because it means that I'm helping someone else, right? Because if I'm not, then I wouldn't have been nominated. I think awards by themselves are not that meaningful. I have a little bit of what I call award fatigue because when I was younger, I would go to singing competitions almost every week.
Yeah.
I probably have more than 100 awards, but at some point you realize that, well, at least that's the case for me, individual achievements by itself doesn't mean much. At one point you become desensitized because, you know, this weekend you win first place, next weekend you win first place, and then it doesn't really matter that much. And I think after I got this award fatigue, I started caring much more about giving out to other people or giving back. And I think that's much more important for me now. And that's why these are the only types of awards I appreciate and I feel grateful about. Not because I feel like an amazing person, but because I know that some people have benefited from what I have to offer and teach.
You have so many initiatives. You're a leader. You're #1 talent. You have 4.0 GPA in AUBG. Which is amazing, which is mind-blowing. You are working at the same time. You're teaching. How? One word. How? How do you manage to deal with that? How do you manage to organize your time and etc. etc.
I think the key for me is one thing: write everything down. I do not have the capacity to remember all of the tasks. In fact, I don't even remember all of the initiatives I'm a part of on the top of my head. So if you were to ask me now to just tell you of my extracurriculars, I would definitely miss something. Like definitely, I can guarantee you. So write everything down. Whenever a task pops up, write it down immediately. Throughout the years, I have experimented with a lot of different, task manager apps and so on. But I've ultimately settled with a very simple task app. I'm not using any fancy organization. The only thing that it allows me to do is press a 2-key shortcut on my laptop and just write down a task, and then it stays there. That's all I need, and then I just review it very often. So that's one thing, just write everything down. And I think the other key component is to actually do the activities that you enjoy. It sounds cliched, I know, but it's so important. I get more drained from doing 1 hour of work that I don't like and I don't find meaningful. I guess being meaningful is the most important thing for a specific task. But I get more drained when I do 1 hour of work that I don't find meaningful than from like 4 hours of work that I believe in and I think is helpful for others. One of the books I tend to recommend to my friends and to anyone really is Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman. This is a collection of stories by the physicist Richard Feynman, and I really fell in love with it the very first time I read it because it shows how science can actually be extremely fun and how you can live life happily and not taking anything too seriously, including science. So as you know, Feynman has won Nobel Prizes, but the way he approached science is just like play. Sometimes he made discoveries while he was in the restaurant just playing around with a dish and thinking about the physics of how it works. And I think whenever I read this book or any other Feynman book, I just feel so motivated to do science for fun, not as some sort of an obligation or assignment, but just for the pure enjoyment of doing it.
Well, for you personally, what do you find meaning
In computer science, it's mostly working on projects that are gonna help the users become better in whatever area it is. I have been mainly involved in education over the past years, including now the company that I work for is educational. So I think providing better educational value and helping students succeed in their studies is important for me. But in terms of other initiatives, I think teaching or mentoring, I find incredible value in. I have had great mentors. I still have great mentors who support me. Well, I cannot be a life mentor or a life coach for anyone because I obviously don't have enough life experience. But I think teaching within computer science is super important for me. I've learned these concepts. I've put in the effort to understand them. In the computer science major, there's a lot of self-studying.
Especially
I'm gonna
here?
be honest. Yeah, especially here. It wasn't like that in my previous university. So the lectures at Software University are really amazing. I think some of the new professors now also have a lot of potential. So as I said, there's been positive change, but for now, there's still a lot of self-study involved. But if I went through that self-study, if I managed to sort of reorganize the material in a way that seems understandable, then I'd definitely like to pass it on to others and help them as much as possible. Because I realized that, professors very often tell you, oh, it's your fault, you're not studying enough. But the thing is, it's sometimes hard. You never know what's going on in other people's lives.
Yeah.
Some students might not have the time. They might have, I don't know, sick relatives that they need to take care of. They might have a full-time job.
So many reasons.
Yeah, a lot of different reasons. And I don't think you should be judgmental to someone who's not studying immediately because you don't know the reasons. So if I can ease it out for them a little bit, then I'd be really glad to do so.
What's your biggest flaw? Because you seem perfect.
Yeah.
You do all the things. You seem to manage so different initiatives. You're active. What's your biggest flaw?
I think maybe when I was younger, I was overemphasizing the importance of work and studying. No, I don't think I've ever completely overemphasized it, but maybe, well, for some reason, my social life wasn't working out. I think it might be the fact that I'm very shy and introverted, and I wasn't putting in the effort to, get out there, socialize, and so on. So I think that has now affected my communicational skills. I'm trying to get better, but, well, at least professionally, not only, I guess that was my main challenge over the years. Communicating effectively, making friendships even. I think family is the only aspect that I've always prioritized. I actually don't have any debates in my mind about the importance of family because, there's a lot of these conversations about work versus family.
Yeah.
I never even got them. I think they're in completely different dimensions. Your colleagues and employers might like you a lot and might be really kind to you, but that's because you offer some value to them, professional value. If something happens to you, and for some reason, either mentally or physically you're incapable of doing your work anymore, a lot of these people will leave you. Your family most likely won't. Okay, I don't want to get into any more like dark topics, but generally, your family is the one that's always gonna care about you and suffer with you and all of that. Whereas your team at work, they don't really even see the suffering behind. But if they were to say it, they wouldn't necessarily be with you all the time. I think there are exceptions, certainly. I actually had a team who was like, I was very close to them and they were very close to me and we deeply cared about each other, but it's not like that all of the time.
What are your plans for the future?
Yeah.
Very broadly, right?
I don't really know. But the general direction that I have right now is probably being either in software engineering or medicine. I can talk about this in a bit, and teaching. I feel like teaching is probably going to be the one part that's never going to leave my life. At least that's how I feel now, because I think it's really meaningful. I already talked about it.
Yeah.
And then for medicine, that's kind of funny. So when I was back in high school, I never really had many debates on what I wanted to do. Music, I kind of felt that it's going to be a hobby. Even though I was majoring in that, I kind of felt it was going to be a hobby. And then I never really had any interest in humanities or social sciences. I put in the effort. It was fun to be in these classes, but I never considered them professionally. And I also kind of suck at them. Oh, here's another thing about the perfect me. I'm really bad at social sciences and humanities. I'm awful at writing. So that's one more thing. But I didn't have much of a debate to the extent that our students do. However, I really loved chemistry and to some extent biology, and then I also loved programming. So I guess that was my my dilemma of whether to go into medicine or computer science. Ultimately, I think I decided to go into computer science, firstly because I already had a lot of experience and I loved it, and secondly because I like disciplines that require a lot of logic and thinking and less memorization. Now, medicine certainly does have a large dose of logic and thinking, definitely. It requires you to be very smart and very critically thinking, but it also involves a lot of memorization.
So you don't regret that choice?
That's a complicated question. Right now, I don't regret it. I'm actually really happy that I ended up at AUBG. You know,
Are you happy in general?
Yeah, I'm happy. I think it's because I don't expect much of life. You
have
know,
low expectations, that's why everything amazes you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just feel so lucky that I'm at AUBG. Because as I mentioned, I don't think the computer science major specifically is super worth it, but I've had amazing professors in some of my gen ed courses which have had such a profound impact on me. They've impacted the way I think and I see the world, and also the way I teach, by the way. So that's one thing I really appreciate. I really appreciate the social environment because, as I said, that was my main problem when I was younger. It probably doesn't sound like much to most people, like, oh, you didn't have much friends, but it is a huge barrier, and it does feel really bad when you're experiencing it, you know. So the fact that I now have friends that I feel comfortable communicating with them or with other people on campus, with my professors, I really appreciate it. So I definitely don't regret my choice. However, I do consider from time to time doing a medical degree after graduating, which would be a complete career switch. Or the other version I'm considering is maybe a master's in something like computational neuroscience, which is a combination of the two. Maybe something like that. So it's still on my mind, you know. I haven't forgotten about it. It still bothers me from time to time, but I certainly don't regret my choice of coming to AUBG.
You know, you mentioned, well, I was asking you about happiness. Are you happy? You mentioned AUBG and that you're happy to be here.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, I see a pattern here. I ask people around on interviews and personal interactions whether they're happy with what do they think about AUBG, and I think that is the pattern I notice. So people who have low expectations, they are easy to amaze, easy to be surprised at, etc., etc. And I think they're actually ultimately happy. That's one of the hacks I've noticed. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think
because one more thing, it's undeniable that AUBG has many flaws. Many flaws. We're not talking about the marketing campaign they're putting up online, right? But in reality, and it can become overwhelming to be absolutely astonished how incomparable it is between the imagination you had about this place and the reality. And so I think the rose-tinted glasses you have, you can adjust them to be a bit lower than the actuality. What do you think?
So I don't think you should ever expect any institution to be even close to perfect. It just doesn't work. I have, well, not exactly friends, but people I know who are studying in top US universities, and they also have a lot of problems. So yeah, I think actually having initiatives like yours and being vocal about what's happening inside of the university are extremely helpful, because now outsiders could take a look and they could know what to be prepared for, but they can know that it's still an amazing place.
Exactly. That's the ultimate aim. You nailed it. And actually, what I noticed, what people, the freshmen this year told me many times, actually, I was actually surprised and amazed that they written so many of them have written in their cover letters, you know, for this university while applying, about Yapping Americano, about this podcast, that
Oh, wow.
they're getting
Okay.
inspired that such an initiative exists, etc., etc. And it keeps me going, to be honest. It gives me much energy when
Yeah,
people look at this. They say it's not perfect, but it's for me. At least what
yeah.
they say.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing.
It's incredibly important. And by the way, one more thing I would add to the topic of you being happy with your university is I think we often overemphasize the flaws and don't really think about
The
the
positives,
benefits and
yeah.
the positives. I very often just spend some time thinking about my experiences here and feeling genuinely grateful for the professors that I've had, the great professors that I've had. The friends that they have, all the events that are happening on campus. You can never find such a university in Bulgaria
Yeah.
with so many and so interesting events. So I think whenever you're getting mad with the university, just pause for a bit and think about all of the great
Yeah.
opportunities here, because they're incomparable to
Yeah.
anything else you would see in Bulgaria. And not only, in general in Europe, this is actually rare.
What advice, you mentioned that a couple of times, but ultimately, what advice would you give to young people in general?
I think one of the pieces of advice would be to be grateful for what you have. I have had a couple of things happen to me this year, mostly this year, that reminded me that you can lose things very easily.
Yeah.
Things and people, unfortunately. So be very grateful for what you have. Be proactive and don't take yourself and your life too seriously. I think this helps a lot. I was taking myself too seriously when I was younger because when you're within the artistic industry, you
A
are
lot of pressure on you, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. And I remember at one point I was feeling very stiff. I didn't really know how to just enjoy life. And in the last couple of years, especially since I came to AUBG, I realized nothing is that serious and that important. I'm not important. No one is really thinking about me all the time, so I can just do whatever I find fun.
What would you say to your future self? And I'm saying maybe 5, 10 years, but as well as up to your when you're elderly, let's say, on your death row. I don't know.
It will probably be make sure that what you're doing in life is aligned with your values. I think it's very easy to lose track of what you believe in life, especially as you start climbing the career ladder and so on. You start feeling more important, more greater in everything. And I've seen, unfortunately, a lot of people that lose track of their values. They were, kind and supportive and empathetic before, but now they're feeling like they're the best in the world and that they're the center of the world. So the advice I would give to my future self is make sure you're sticking with your values and life principles and you're not giving up with them for any reason, even if there's a cost associated.
Amazing. Alex, I want to thank you for this interview.
Thank
It
you
was
too, Sava.
amazing. Thank you very much.
Really glad to have been here. Thank you.